Let us begin. So, hello everyone. My name is Flo. I'm one of the bossos here who has been around for a very, very long time. Today we are doing a class on AI image generation. Now, probably a lot of you have heard about this weird thing called Stable Diffusion that was released. There are various different models online. We are going to focus on this one. I will show a little bit what other models are available. But the nice thing about Stable Diffusion is you can use it locally. Now, we need to start with a couple of disclaimers. I will not really go very deep into ethics, nor am I a law expert. So anything that I'm saying is generally accepted within the AI generation community. But if you're going to use your stuff commercially, you might want to talk with your lawyer first. As far as I know, anything that an AI has generated is not copyrighted. So you can just use it as is. But this is a developing field, so yeah, make sure that you're not doing something illegal. If you're just using it privately, I don't think anybody will care. So do whatever you want. AI generation and the software that you use to generate images is very, very much work in progress. Probably everything I'm saying is already outdated. But it shouldn't matter all that much because even if it's a little bit outdated, it will still help you get towards the right solution that you're looking for. AI image generation is also not easy. When I generate images and I want something very specific, I'm talking about generating 100 to 200 images. Occasionally, I'll even have to use Photoshop to combine them. More often than not, though, just generating the first 100 images will do. My current graphics card that I have in here, a 3080 Ti, it takes around 5 seconds to generate an image. So usually it's more which pictures do I pick and they get into the next round that takes time, rather than the generation itself. If you have a slow system, then of course the image generation is also something that takes quite a lot of time. Yeah. AI is trained on whatever it is trained on. There are certain standards that are easier to generate. To show what I mean by that is, I want all of you to think about a dwarf. Okay? You now have an image in your head. How many of you thought about this here that I have there? Probably none, not a single one of you. So yeah, if you're going to generate something that is not quite your default look, you might be struggling a little bit. Just modify your prompts a bit more, see what changes you get. It is trained what it is trained on. There are ways to train an AI yourself. It is very involved, so I'm not going to show this today. But I'll probably do a follow-up class as soon as it is in ArtRoom, because currently that model is not in ArtRoom, so you have to use another software, and I didn't want to do that. Also, I have to give this disclaimer, I doubt it will happen. Nudity is a possibility. Now, it was trained on images from the internet, and as we all know, the internet was made for porn, so accidental nudity can happen. Now, I'm generating a dwarf warrior, so hopefully we'll not get any. But particularly if you do stuff like a fairy or an elf, nudity can happen because they are simply, one of the very popular things to train AI on is art. And think about 1800s art, there's a lot of naked women there. So yeah, it can happen. Don't be scared. Just look away if it disturbs you. Good. Now, what requirements do we even have? You need a lot of hard drive space, the more the better. I think a minimum of 30 gigabytes. My current AI setup with everything that I have is around 150 gigabytes, but I have a lot because I also mess around a lot. So this is not a realistic number for most people. But yeah, make space. Really, you need a lot of space. And then the other thing is an NVIDIA graphics card. Now, if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, you will need to use one of the websites where you can generate it. I have them listed down here. So you can just go there. The downside of those is it often costs money to use them. And of course, if you think that you need to generate 100 images, that can get pricey pretty quickly. So yeah, there is an alternative way that you can do it. You can also run it off your CPU. So if you have a really powerful CPU, you can do it that way. Generating an image takes between 5 and 10 minutes when you generate it from a CPU. So it is a very slow process. In the end, if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, I would say hold off for a little bit. There are solutions for AMD graphics card being developed as we are speaking. Probably in a year, you'll definitely have something, maybe even already the beginning of next year. So it's not that far away. The software we'll use today is ArtRoom. Now, I already have it installed. The software is not super big, but everything it downloads bloats it up quite a bit. So be prepared that it takes a while to install and download everything. There is a command window like this one here popping up, and that will show you what it's currently downloading. And it will download everything that you need and install it for you. So you can literally just run the installer and go. There are some alternative softwares that have a little bit of bonus features, namely Automatic and Invoke AI. Automatic is basically the Swiss Army knife. So you get every possible plugin and thing that you could do, and it's great, but it's much more difficult to install. Invoke AI has a little bit less, but it has one very cool feature that I'll show later what it does. And as I said, the website alternative are here. So, any questions before we start? Or should I get into how this all works and what you do?
Fire.
I see nobody has any questions, so
nope, not yet.
Let us begin. When you start the software for the first time, there's a tutorial running. I would highly recommend to just read through or go through the tutorial and check everything out that happens. And then once you're done, we'll head to settings and turn on debug mode. Now, why am I recommending to turn on debug mode? If anything is not working, you will see it in this debug mode window. If you don't have that open, the software might just stuck and not do anything, and you are not even aware that it's not doing anything. So I would recommend to just turn on debug mode, have it open, keep it in the background. You don't even need to look at it, but if you feel like, I've pressed run like 5 minutes ago, nothing is happening, check it. Maybe there's an error message there saying something went wrong. Probably in 2-3 versions or so, anything that the debug mode, any error messages that the debug mode shows, also have an error message in the software. That is that thing about, this is work in progress. Art is working really hard at this, so be patient. But yeah, it should be good enough. So once you're done with that, we can begin. Your output folder is very simply the folder where it's put. If you don't put anything else in there, then it will just be dropped on your desktop. Otherwise, you'll need to define a whole path. I just kept it default. I have enough space on C for now, so I'll just keep it there. The number of images is how many images you generate. I'll leave this at 5 for now, because it's just very convenient to have a couple of images to pick from. The aspect ratio is actually more important than you think. So technically speaking, you can just go to custom and make an image that is, I don't know, 3840 by 512. If you do stuff like this, I was trained on images that are 512 by 512. So any multiplicative of 512, it will assume that these are 2 images that are right next to each other. So instead of getting one large image, you'll get 2 images, right next to each other. So for your own sake, I would stick to either 1:2 could work, but more often than not, I would do 4:3 or 16:9, because then that relationship gets preserved. Very well. Now, I personally will do just 512 by 512 for today. If I want larger images, there is an option that I'll show later. Yeah. That's one of the problems Arcelion, So Arcelion asked, Windows doesn't like ArtRoom, nor does antivirus, as it flags it as ransomware program check. it should be safe. I mean, I've been using the software for a while. If it had like blocked my hard drive, I would hopefully found out by now. I think it's just because it calls a lot of Python scripts in the background, which antivirus generally don't like if you're just running Python script and changing stuff. Yeah. And then once we're done with this, we come to the specific settings of your model. The number of steps. So whenever you generate images, you need, or it works as follows. You start with random noise, which is basically just pixels that are randomly distributed. There are different types of noise. You don't really have to know the papers. If you're really interested, read the paper. But it's basically, you start with random noise, and then you're trying to get to your end result. And the way it's doing this is, it changes a little bit and looks if it's closer or further away. And if it's closer, it takes that one and changes a little bit, and then goes closer again. And each step is basically one of those getting closer to what you want. So actually, let's do that now. Let's just generate one step and see what it does. I'll also only generate one image because I don't expect this to look good. Maybe we'll get an error message. I don't know if you can just do one. Oh, I think I can do just one. Yeah, if you just do one, you get this. So you basically get more or less random noise. Maybe we already can say we have like a vague shape, but it's still not quite what we want. Now, if we go up to 2, we might already get something. Nah, this is still not enough. Let's do 5. So now it does just 5 steps, and every step it gets a little bit closer to a dwarf. And as we can see, now we already have something that vaguely resembles a dwarf. The big question that you have here now, how many steps should you use? I personally have chosen 40, and it seems that with what I'm doing, I'm getting good results with that. So I'm just sticking with 40. The more steps you make, the better your result gets, but it is diminishing returns. So the difference between 1 and 5 steps is going to be much higher than 5 and 10 steps. And the difference between 40 and 100 steps is barely imperceptible. Now, of course, it's an improvement, but it's so minimal, it's usually not worth it. And of course, every step takes time. So fewer step means you can generate more images, and I'd rather have more images and then pick the ones that look good. The prompt strength. This is how closely the AI follows your prompt. So for example, if your prompt says dwarf warrior wearing a golden armor and you have a low prompt strength, it might ignore the golden armor bit because the dwarves that it learned on all wore metal armor, not gold armor. But if you go really high, then it will very strictly follow. But you'll need more number of steps to generate it, because it will have to throw away every time it sees, oh, this is not quite what I wanted. So you'll need more steps to generate it. There, I think I have it in my, I don't have it. Oh yeah, here. So basically, 5 means you give a lot of freedom to the AI, do whatever you want. And 15 means just do what I say. You can even go higher if you want. You can go to like 25. I've heard people who are using this very successfully. I'm using 9 as a solid middle ground between the follow my prompt exactly and do whatever you want. The sampler. This is a huge point of debate, which is the best sampler. Each sampler has its advantages and disadvantages. I'm using Euler Ancestral, also known as Euler_A in many like online comparison things. This one will continue to change your image. So let's generate one image at 20 steps. We'll see what we get. One moment. I need to remove my random seed and just use that same seed. Let's do this again. Okay, so now let's go up to 25 steps. And what we should probably see is that it no longer looks like this, but we have a completely different image. Wow, okay, we got exactly the same image. Whoa. Okay, well then let's do 40 steps and see if that changes anything.
I think his face might have been a couple pixels fatter. I think it's the seed setting. It has to random.
No, that's intentional. Okay, so apparently I'm not getting this right now. Maybe I misremember. Maybe it wasn't Yule Ancestral. I'm almost 100% sure. Maybe it was DPM Ancestral. But that was actually also a good way to show you the differences between 20, 30, and 40 steps were basically zero. So maybe even 40 steps is too much. I'll just leave it there. And yes, down here you have your seed. By default, this is set to random, and I also want to keep it on random. If you're using the same seed with the same settings, you'll get the same result, provided you also have the same hardware. I've actually found that using the same settings and having slightly different hardware can cause things to go a little bit crazy.
So you want to use random seed? Did I hear you right?
Yes, I usually use random seed. So I always get a different image. If you don't use random seed and generate 5 images, you get 5 times the same image because it's the same seed, right? So it would be the same image. Yeah, cool. If you need these settings, I also have them here as quick setting reference. And if you're like, no, I know better than you, you can go to this prompting guide that very in excruciating detail explains every single step of this process. Probably for what you're doing, this will be good enough. And finally, we have model. Your model is the model that you're using to generate images. Now, for anybody who has already downloaded ArtRoom, it will say model.checkpoint. So that's CKPT means checkpoint. This is Stable Diffusion 1.4. There is a 1.5 and there is also a 2.0 now. 1.5 is a slight upgrade. Everything's a bit faster, so it might be worth getting this, but 1.4 is also fine. 2.0 is a strict downgrade. Basically, this comes to this ethics discussion at the beginning. They caught a lot of flack, so they removed all nudity. And I talked about earlier that a lot of art just has a lot of nudity, so they no longer know how people look like. So when you generate stuff, let's just say it's not pretty. It still does landscapes fine, but with people, it seems to be struggling way more. So I would not recommend SD Stable Diffusion 2.0. But for now, you only have model.checkpoint anyway. This is the one that comes default with the software. Cool. Let us begin. So we have our prompt box, and I will generate 5 images, and we'll see what we get. So I'm looking for like a nice dwarf warrior in armor, and I want to use this as a portrait. I want to use it as a portrait. Oh yeah, this is actually a good question. So Alderin asked, what is the difference or relationship between Stable Diffusion and ArtRoom? And what is Stable Diffusion in general? So Stable Diffusion is a model, an AI model that was trained on a lot of images to generate images based on what it was trained on. So basically, you give it an image that has a house, a couple of people, and a tree on it, and you tag this image as house, people, tree. And then later, someone can say, oh, I need a building that has a house, a car, and a river on it. It never had this exact combination, but it might have another image that had rivers on it and another image that had car on it. And then it can put this together and generate you an image that looks like it should. And ArtRoom is just a software that makes use of Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion is your model, and ArtRoom is the software to use that model with. Because you need to somehow tell the model to do stuff. And that is what ArtRoom is for. Think of it a little bit like Fantasy Grounds. So you have your software that you can use, and then you have your different modules that you buy to then use together with Fantasy Grounds, like the player's handbook. I think there's more question coming. Yes, it takes text prompts and then uses the images that it was trained on to generate a new image, which we'll do now. So I have a prompt called Dwarf Warrior. We'll generate 5 and see what we get. Now, one thing you might immediately notice is that we're getting Warhammer 40k figurines and not quite portraits. They also look pretty shitty. Like the hands are awful, their weapons look very off, their faces are not good. I mean, the plate they are standing on is pretty alright. This one looks pretty good, but it's not what we wanted at all. So the way Stable Diffusion generates these images is it looks at your prompt, but it does not only look at each word individually, but also the combination. So what we'll do next is we're saying we want a portrait of a dwarf warrior. So instead of just getting any random dwarf warrior, whatever it was trained on, we're now saying, no, explicitly pictures. Like I want face shots of a dwarf warrior. When I now generate 5 images, we are already much, much better. Now, these are not great, but these are already usable. Like this could totally be a profile picture or something that you could use for a random NPC. Yeah, for my taste, some of those looked way too realistic. And also the variation between them is tremendous. Like every single one of these looks very different. Like this is looks like there's a dwarf sitting in a room and they're taking the camera shot for the passport of your job. And this one looks like a painting. This one looks like a weird 3D render. Like everything looks a little bit weird. So we'll expand this. Now I have 2 options here because I want to show both, just what the difference is. We'll do next portrait of a dwarf warrior, and then I put a comma. Now this is actually very important. These commas tell the AI the next thing that I'm writing is not related to the previous thing that I'm writing. So if you do portrait of a dwarf warrior oil painting, then it will give you a painting where there is probably a dwarf painting or oil painting. But if you put that comma in, then it understands, oh, okay, you want a portrait of a dwarf warrior, and it should be an oil painting. So let's run this. Called tokenization. So you use these different tokens and put them together, and based on that, you get different paintings. Now this time, I really sincerely hope that we'll only get paintings, which looks very good already. These are, in my opinion, fantastic. Like this is already quality I would be very happy to use for my games. If you don't like that art style, then another good one that you could use is digital art. So instead of oil painting, let's do digital art this time.
Do you need the trailing comma after digital art?
I just put it so I don't forget it if I ever do any other terms at the end. Now, digital art, as you can see, is much closer to what you would find in a book. So if you think about your D&D books or so, this is usually closer to that style rather than the oil painting one that I did earlier. And it also gets rid of that shine. I'll show that in a second. Is it done? No, it's still generating one more, right? Yes. Okay, now it's done. So if you look, this has this weird white shine at the top there, which is just very common on oil paintings. So as I said, whatever it was trained on, it returns. So if it was trained on, Chambermain, you are... One moment, I'll mute you for a second. There you go. So that this shine, it just saw on every oil painting that it had, you have to shine. On digital art, of course, you wouldn't have to shine. So these ones are very uniform and very nice. Now, one of the cool things that you can do, it was trained on a lot of artists. There are lists online on who it was trained on. I have found that they weren't super accurate. So I have stopped using them and I just try and see if it changes the image to what I want. And that's good enough for me. Now, me personally, I kind of want to support artists that are still alive. So I only used artists that are already dead in my prompts. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do. The one that I have here is Rembrandt, because I think most people know him, hopefully. So we'll do by Rembrandt here, and we'll see whether it looks like a Rembrandt picture then, or if it still looks like it just did. Now, this very weird art style here with the beard is something that is very typical for Rembrandt. You know, where the beard isn't super clear. So it definitely has already taken in that idea. Okay, yeah, if a Rembrandt picture, if this would be a Rembrandt picture, oh yeah, this is very, very much like Rembrandt. So an easy way to change how your image looks completely is to just add a painter to it. It will often also change the time period, because many of these painters lived in whatever time period they are, and the people they drew were, of course, of that same time period, and that shows then in your results. That can actually be a benefit. So if you pick someone who painted in the 1920s and you're running a game that is set in the 1920s, you might get some really, really good images. And what you then basically just do is you expand this out further and further and get these really, really long things here. So I try to do it like this. So I first do whatever I want. So in my case, a portrait of. This could also be a full body shot of, or a 3D render of. And then I say of what I want. In my case, I want a dwarf warrior. This time I also specified I want a white beard and plate armor. Then I say what the art style is, by who it was made, and the rest is just token words that are useful to have. So I have like fantasy, medieval, I have volumetric lighting, concept art, brushstroke style. ArtStation is in there because ArtStation seems to be giving you very good images. Also, trending is apparently one that really pushes it up. If you're interested in what I'm exactly using, it's in my sheet. That sheet is pinned in the classroom, so you can just grab it from there, or you can PM me and I send it to you. I'm also sure we'll distribute it online in our, like wherever we are streaming this right now. Yeah. And if we're using this and press run, we should be hopefully getting something that looks even better than what we have right now. Yes. So these are very, very stylized. I'm not happy that it doesn't show the plate armor properly, and it also completely ignored my white beard, as you might have seen. I mean, this is a little bit white beardy. Oh yeah, there we go. But again, no white beard. This is white hair instead of white beard. Interesting. But you can certainly see, in this one you can also see it, and in this one how it did the volumetric lighting, which just gives you the images a little bit more of a pop. So these can be useful. An additional note, the order of prompts matter. So the earlier a prompt is, the more weight the AI puts in it. Now I really want that white beard, and I'm not getting this white beard. What can I do? There is something called weighting. You can increase the weight of a term, even if it's not at the start, by putting it into brackets. So I'm going to put white beard into, let's do even triplicate brackets, which will tell the AI, no, the white beard is super duper important to me. Please give me that white beard. And also,
can you just clarify that? Is that parentheses or brackets?
that's me not knowing English. The round ones.
The round ones. Okay, thank you.
Yes. The square brackets, on the other hand, that's a good one though, because we need the square brackets as well. They actually make it less important. So if you're saying, oh, this is a little bit too much volumetric lighting, then you can use the square brackets to tone it down a bit. This might still be interesting because using, so if you do something like this, you still say, oh, I want the volumetric lighting, I just want a little bit less of it. Yeah, I will also increase plate armor a little bit, because why the hell not? And then we'll run again and see if we get something very decent. Yes, so by increasing the strength, I have a higher chance of getting a white beard. Now it still refuses to give me a white beard at all. Man, it really does not want to give me a white beard. What we'll do then is, let's let it finish whatever it's doing. I mean, these are gorgeous images. These are fantastic. I love this. There we go. Finally a white beard.
We got it. We got the white.
Yeah. This one also kind of counts. You can, down here you have negative prompts. There is a default negative. I would highly recommend to use these anyways. So we have a low res, low quality. This is basically just, the AI was trained on images of low quality. So you could say, I don't want that, take that away. So negative prompts are basically, don't do this, please. Bad anatomy, that's also a good one. Basically it says, yeah, so this creature is not correctly arranged, so please don't do that. Or bad hands, then you get decent hands. So this is basically that. Text is also a good one, because if you don't have that in, what you occasionally get is Shutterstock. Well, it doesn't say Shutterstock, but it looks like the Shutterstock watermark on the image. So that's why you put text in there. And all of the other ones are like just quality related stuff. And what we'll do now is we'll put brown beard here and we put black beard here. And we'll try again. Maybe if we say, no, don't do brown and black beards, maybe this will help. Let's see. I actually don't know if this will work. So this is the beauty. Oh, this doesn't look bad. Yeah, I think we might have cracked the code. Or not. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got it.
As a white-haired guy, I dig it.
Yeah.
Can you still
I'm
do?
not a fan of the beards though. They are very poor.
Can you still do brackets within the negative prompts?
Yes, works exactly the same. Yeah.
Still unbelievable technology.
So now we got white beards. So how about we use what we have here? I think this is enough for you to figure out how to use it. The next step, or actually no, let's do the next step. So let's say you have one that is kind of what you like. Let's pick this one. I like this one, but it's not 100% what you like, or maybe the face is a little bit off. You right click and you say set as starting image. When you set as starting image, it doesn't use random noise as the start, but it uses this image as its starting point, and then generates from this image based on this prompt. Is it kind of clear what I mean by that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So you
Yep.
get
Okay.
different flavors of this same image as opposed to
Exactly.
something. Okay.
Now, those people who have been very observant might have noticed there is this image variation strength here now. That one is how far away from the original image do you want to go? The values that I usually recommend here are 0.75 is I have no clue what I want yet, but it should roughly look like what I have here. So let's generate this very quickly, and we should see that it changes it quite dramatically. It might still have the same shape, but everything else will be, yeah, look, we still have kind of the same shape, but the face is totally different, the beard is totally different. This is even like whiter. Oh my god, we're getting almost racist white here. I mean, this is great. I really like this one. So the thing that you then do is, if you have one that you're like, oh, this was really good, we'll head back to that one. Oh, I also like this one, but I think this one is probably the best one out of them. You can now set this as starting image and do it again. And this is how you get to your 100, 200 images. So you basically set the new starting image and generate more of them. Now we'll use this one as our starting image, and this time we do 0.55. Now 0.55 is for me, I already know pretty much what I want. This is very, very close, but maybe, you know, the face is still messed up or the hands don't look quite right. Then I use 0.55. Or I need 10 NPCs that all are brothers of one family, then 0.55 is also pretty good. So you can see we're still getting changes, but the changes are much, much more minute than earlier.
So if you were to set image variation to 0, there'd be no changes.
Yes. Oh, this one looks horrifying. So I'm not a fan of any of those that were generated, but that's not a problem. We can just press run again and generate even more, right? So don't be discouraged. Just generate more images until you find what you need. Sometimes more images is better than just messing around with your prompt over and over and over. The way I generally do it is I mess around with my prompt until I have pretty much what I want. And then I use that same prompt for every NPC that I'm generating in that location. So that way you get a very uniform art style. So let's say you need a couple of dwarves, a couple of elves, a couple of humans, whatever else you might need. If you do all of them with the same prompt here after digital art, so everything here, you just keep this the same and just stay the... there are ways we'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. It's the next step. Just to finish this, yeah, so I would then just change this part of the prompt and leave the other part of the prompt the same. And that way you get a very uniform art style, which is helpful. We do image variation strength one more. 0.35 is then, I really just want a tiny change. Those are the three that I use the most often. Yeah, so here you can see now we are very close to the original image. But this time we lost the blue eyes. This time we get a lot more like crevices. This time the eyes are a little bit more open. This time we are going a little bit more Asian. So the image variation strength at 0.35, you're staying very close to what you have and just do minor changes. Okay, so question, what do we do if we don't like that helm is so far away? There is a tool over here called Paint. And we'll head over here. Now I set this as starting image, and my starting image is showing up here. And down here is a range, and we'll increase the range a little bit because I want a larger brush. And we'll just brush over that helmet here. Yeah, this is about right. It doesn't need to be super precise. Now the change that we want is actually rather massive. So I'm going for 0.75 again. And I will now write down here, wearing a small helmet, and keep the rest of it the same. And I'm not going to use painted image, but I'm going to say use mask. This means anything that is marked blue right now, maybe I should expand this so it's the same size on both sides, is what it will change. And if we press run now, and once Artur fixes this, calling you out Artur, it's already generating the images, but sadly, we have to go back to create to see it. Now let's see if it made the helm any smaller. Ah, yes. So you see how these look awful? There's a reason for that. We need to change our sampler to... Oh my god, what happened here?
I want to play.
I will set this to DDIM, and hopefully with this sampler it actually works. Yeah, this tool will be completely reworked for the next update. That's why I'm a little bit reluctant to show too much. This is the Invoke AI stuff I talked about right at the start, which makes this process a lot less painful. But for now, this is what we have, and this is something that is very useful. So I kind of need to show it. Okay, there we go. It's starting again. So let's go back here, and I hope this time it works. Yeah, it doesn't really make it that much smaller. It gives different types of helmets. Maybe we can get at least one that is smaller.
Could you also do this to change the weapon that it's holding or something like
Yes, you can also use it for that. I'm going to state here, anything that is long is difficult. So a staff, a sword, a stick, all of these are very, very difficult to do with AI. It doesn't like long things. I don't know why it has such problems, but it's really, really struggling with this. So yeah, if you just want to change the helmet, I would probably say generate more images until you have one with a small helmet, and then use this as your starting point. The in-painting as it is now is not really capable of this. Once the Invoke AI stuff is built into ArtRoom, I'll do an update class and I'll show how this works. But what you can also use this paint tool for, we had here use painted image. I'm not going to show this on this example, but rather one that I've done in the past. So I've done a very crude drawing of skull
Amazing.
and crossbone. I mean, this is just pure art, isn't it?
We're pirates.
We're pirates. And I used this as my starting image. And I said, no, turn this into a cool flag for my pirate ship. And this is the result I got.
Neat.
And this is the result I got.
Neat.
And this is
That's
the
a
result
major
I got.
difference. That's really cool.
Yeah, neat.
So if you already know roughly what you want, paint it. Like, just do a very quick sketch. I mean, look at this. This is a very crappy sketch. It took me 30 seconds to paint this.
I actually like the first one better than all the others.
This took me like 30 seconds to paint. And I used this and I generated really cool flags. And this is probably the way to do stuff if you already know roughly what you want.
Flo, that's cool.
Yeah. And as a little bit of a highlight, I asked Lararoon for permission and he gave me some pictures. So we'll use Lararoon now as the starting image. This wonderful image. There is already a problem.
Here we go,
going
Laren.
on.
Look at
There's
that
already
handsome devil.
Yeah, let's go.
There's already a problem going on. There are glasses. It's not going to like the glasses, but we'll try our best. I'm already going to take the image variation strength very far down. And I'm also going to remove the small helmet because he's not wearing any helmet on that image. I'll keep the plate armor in and see if it can turn that clothing into plate armor.
Can you add glasses to the negative prompt?
Laren, beast.
Here
we go.
And this is actually going to be interesting. Oh, this is not enough.
It's got a white beard.
It does have a white beard, but I would say, I wonder what it does. We need to give it more freedom. This is not enough freedom. This is also very common that it makes these double mouths. Yeah, we are not giving it enough freedom. Let's go up to 0.55.
Laren looks beastly to me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah.
I think it's really, yes.
Party time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just really doesn't like the glasses. I'll remove that from the negative prompts and just run it again with the same image strength, because right now it's really trying hard to remove those glasses, and I don't think that will work. This is not good.
What do you mean?
I think
Oh, this is great. This is
it's fantastic.
This is also not bad. So this is basically a way to turn yourself into a character if you want. I'm actually... So I have a lot of experience now with AI art, and I know how beautiful this can look like, and I'm really not happy with this outcome. I'm like, this is very low quality. I don't like this. Now Lararoon has provided a second image that even has a helmet. So let's try this one and see if we get better results with this one.
If you were to take
Now this one,
pictures from like famous people or just or stock photos, you could actually do stuff with it with this.
Yeah. So this one here worked considerably better. Now, maybe you notice something. All of these faces are super duper wide, right? And the reason is the starting image is a height of 604 and not the default image. And it will actually then squash the image together and generate 512 by 512. So if I'm now setting this back to 640, which is the resolution of this image, it's 512 by 640, and run it through like this, you'll actually see that the face looks a lot less round. Oof, that's scary. What is this? What is going on even?
Super cool.
So yeah, There is quite a lot you can do. Yeah. And I mean, this is kind of cool what it made out of that baseball cap, right? Like all these helmets, these different styles and everything. I mean, this is just fantastic here. I love this so much. Cool. With this done, what do we do next? I want to do models next. Now, there are different models available. These need to go into the folder that you have specified here, the model weight folder. Each model is between 2 and 8 gigabytes in size, so it is hefty. So think carefully which ones you want. There is a wonderful, wonderful group of people that made all of these models for different races. And you can just download the models right over here to the right. One moment. Mouse cursor too large. So you can download them here.
That's super cool.
And let's take this image that we have here.
It's in that file of yours. That's in
What?
the Google Doc you have up.
It's in the Google Doc. It's down at models.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll show all of the models that are here. So, yes. Now let's go up here and we'll pick Beholder, because why the hell not? And I will. So a lot of these checkpoints have a trained term. So the trained term means instead of just calling the images that it uses for training Beholder, these were called Beholder_monster. This means if you call Beholder_monster, the only reference it has as its training is the images that it was trained on specifically. Instead of using all the other images that might have been called Beholder in the past. You know, I don't know, all that French art where it's like in the eye of the beholder and it's like a man staring at fruit. Like all of those images would also be in there. But this one, he just took images of beholders and trained it on that. So what we'll do is, instead of a portrait of a dwarf warrior, I'm going to say a portrait of a beholder monster. I'm removing the plate armor because I don't think that makes much sense. And I'll leave the rest in there. And I'll just press run. Now, when you're changing models, this takes quite a while. This is probably going to take 2 minutes. So if there are any questions you want answered, now is the time to ask me, because we'll need to wait until the new model is loaded.
Now, it's not just fantasy art. You could do, if you're running a superhero game or a Cthulhu game, you can have access to different settings.
We are getting there, yeah.
Okay.
We'll actually do that.
Sorry, Flo.
So the models that I have picked are, so the tabletop resources one is the one we are starting with right now.
Okay.
Then Midjourney. So Midjourney, some of you might have even heard, this is a website. And there is someone who picked art that looked very much like the art in Midjourney and trained it on that. So you get this very distinctive art style. Now this is what Lauren would look like as a beholder.
Whoa.
That's kind of terrifying.
Look at
This is
Larry.
very, very terrifying, yes. I mean, what I'll do once this is done, I'll clear the starting image just so you can see what just generating beholders using these terms would look like.
And if I put that in front of my players, they'd be terrified.
I've installed ArtRoom and I tried to do a simple sample and it's not creating an image. It's saying added to queue, but when I go to queue, the queue is empty. So I'm sure I'm doing something wrong.
Are you still downloading the model maybe? Not sure. So this is just, I'm generating some beholders. Just so you can see that too. This one has 2 eyes. The thing is, there is the link to the, where did I put it? The ArtRoom. Did I not put the, oh, there, yeah, the ArtRoom Discord. It's probably best to ask there what is going on. I can probably also figure out if I look at your debug screen, what it says there. Because the debug screen will probably say what is going on in the background. Does it say anything other than added to queue in the debug screen?
No, that's all it's saying. And I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought there was still a couple of minutes to ask questions. So
Yeah.
we can cover after the, I'll go to Discord.
Yeah. So yeah, this is how beholders look like. Let's go back to our dwarf though, and just try that one and see what happens. Because maybe we get some very interesting results. Even though we're not using like the term it was trained on, it still has more beholder images in there. So maybe that makes a difference. Not really. Looks very similar.
Got the white beard though.
It has the white beard. I mean, I'm still doing as negative brown beard and black beard, so
It'll turn the beard into tentacles.
yeah. I mean, it is doing a little bit better on the weapons, I think. But yeah, it looks very similar. So let's use the ones where I'm fairly certain that it will look different. I have pre-selected a couple which I think will be interesting for DMs. As I said, there are a million of these, so good luck finding the best ones. Sorry, Large James, I'll mute you because you're making noise.
Of course, one of the guys from my table has to come in and be loud.
Yes, always the same people. Okay, the next one that I have here is Midjourney. So let's go down to Midjourney. And so for many of these, you need to also add then Midjourney style. So it knows that this is the model type or this is what you're trying to generate. So I will add this in and we'll see what it does. Ah, yes. Changing models. As I said, this takes quite a while. So I would probably recommend stick with one model once you have found the right one that gives you what you want. I mean, changing models is fun because you can really see how images change. I mean, the change just now wasn't that big. I hope for the Midjourney one we at least see a little bit of a change. If we still don't see a change, I'll immediately skip ahead to the Robo Diffusion one because there I know that we'll see a change. I'm 100% certain. Yes. So there you see, this is now almost like a 3D render. And Midjourney also has the big advantage that it's very fantasy related. So a lot of the images that it was fed are very, very fantasy stuff. So if you're generating fantasy images with it, I would assume that the results look much better than if you just use the default model that the software comes with. Yeah, I think this looks way better. Cool. Now let's go for something a bit more crazy. This is one that I made. It's called Arcanything. It's a merge. So when you have two models and you like them, you can say, oh, I'll put these together and see what happens. And I've combined one that was trained on Arcane. So anybody who knows the movie series or the TV and Netflix series Arcane, that style. And anything is literally someone who took all models that existed and merged them. Because why not, right? And I've done a 50-50 mix of those two. And this one actually gives very interesting results too. So I'll put Arcane style here at the end and generate some more. I'm also doing this just so you see is this model interesting to you or not. There's one or two more things I want to show. And then we are technically already done unless people have questions. So you can already think about anything that you definitely want me to cover that I haven't covered yet. I didn't want it to make it too large because, I mean, I can go for hours and show millions of things. But this should definitely be good enough to get you going and make your own stuff. So I think it should be starting. Yes, should be starting now.
Really cool, Flo. Thank you so much.
That's really informative. I've been wanting to get into AI art. Being a little,
Me
little
too.
intimidated.
Now, have you tried doing this with maps or dungeons or anything like that?
That's one of the things I still wanted to show. So we'll do this next then.
Okay.
Now, as you can see, this gives you this very, glowing and blah, blah, blah. And the other thing that I found out is the Arcane thing style has one problem. It really likes to produce women, as you can see here. It really likes that female face shape, but it's very good at following your prompt, right? There was not a single one that had problems with the white beard. These are very nice beards that I've generated. Okay, then let's go for maps. Or no, I want to show two more. Which one's the... oh yeah, the Robo Diffusion we definitely have to do, because that one is very special. And that one has, what was it, Nauser Robot. Yes. So this one was specifically trained on robots. So if you're running something sci-fi, this might be way more what you're looking for. Or if you want to generate paladins or characters that are completely in armor, this one also does pretty decent job. Maybe the white beard though will throw it off. We'll see. We'll see how good that one works. Loading the model is fun. Yeah, sorry that it takes forever. It's the worst part about all of this. Waiting. This is what I mean. So this is not really a robot per se, but it still gives you very, very interesting results. You get these characters that are in complete armor, because Robo Diffusion doesn't know what a face is for the most part. So it will literally just give you stuff like this. Which maybe is something that you need. Now, I will put Nauser Robot as the first thing and try again. Just to show what the difference is between putting it at the very end and putting it at the beginning. Because if I put it at the start, this has a much higher priority.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But you can already tell this is way more robot than it was earlier. But yeah, so I have Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, and Spider-Verse listed. Let's do Spider-Verse as the final one, just to show that don't just say, oh, this makes no sense because it's super far away from what I want. Don't be afraid to use this and just check out what kind of images it will generate. Sometimes you will be surprised what these unconventional models can generate. I have another merge that is Modron and Beholder merged together. Two things that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. I did that for fun, and I got some really weird creatures out that I then later was thinking, I could probably turn these into enemies for my game. So they are not perfect for portraits, but they're very good when it comes to generating very unique creatures that your players have not seen before.
Different things like Traveler.
That's pretty neat.
That's amazing.
So I think we're going there. Come on.
So you actually created a custom model that's a hybrid of several on this list already?
Yes.
Dan?
Yeah.
All right. You can show us how to do that.
This this is not an ArtRoom yet. So this is coming soon, TM. If you're really interested, the automatic 111 can do it. So you will just have to follow the installation guide of that one and install everything yourself, and then you can do it. What happened here?
Quite the beard.
White
It's
beard, yes.
Like I'm an '80s kid, and that was like a picture of my mom and me.
Yeah. As I said, this was really just an exercise in don't be afraid to use an unconventional image. Now, just as a little bit of one moment, do I need to be careful here? Do I have any naked people? Just making sure that I'm not accidentally.
By me.
Yeah, fine by you, but not by me. We are streaming this. So here I'll just show you some images that I have generated in the past. This is playing in a modern time. So this is actually not prehistoric. So a lot of these images are fine. Everybody is a student here. So yeah, sometimes the face is a little bit off, but otherwise, these are actually pretty neat. And I mean, here I needed a goth kit, and it took me a couple of tries until I got something good. And there I needed a lady drinking from a Starbucks cup. Then I needed someone overweight. Oh, I'm missing some of the images, but yeah, you can see, like, as long as you just keep generating, eventually you'll get pretty good ones. This is a very common problem where the head is cut off. This is really annoying, and that one is fixed soon. So this is called outpainting, where you can say, please add another 100 pixels at the top there and keep generate more of the image. This is happening soon, hopefully. Now, the ones I'm looking forward to are my monsters. Yeah, here. So these are some monsters that I've generated. Basically, this is some kind of everything's burned away, and they are now these shadow creatures that still live there. Now I had to generate them. And yeah, this is just really, really cool. And as you might be able to see at the top, my terms were literally just one moment. Let's go back to the bat, because I think this one shows it very nicely. Bat, ash, burnt forest, art station, and in the style of Jakub Rostalski, which is a Polish artist, and that's why everything looks so horrible. No, there are a lot of Polish artists who really make these super dark and brooding images.
The Witcher.
I mean, this is just cool.
The Witcher's Polish.
Yeah. And of course, my favorite, which is the only reason why I wanted to open this in the first place. So you all have heard of Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires. Well, this is Bernie the Hare. And he is causing,
And he is creating
Yes.
forest fire.
Yeah.
Nice job, Flo. Really nice.
And here you see, like, also stuff like this is very cool that you can make. Anyways, just showing, yeah, so 2 more things. We do the battle map first, I think. So there is already a battle map one, which is called Afternoon, not the D&D one, the Afternoon Map AI one, which is also listed in this virtual tabletop one. And yes, we need to add top-down, forest, lake, and dirt path, maybe. Yeah. I'll change it a little bit because that will probably give better results. A top-down image of, and then the Afternoon Map AI is basically what I was trained on. I want a forest there, a lake, a dirt path, and then I'll just generate and see what happens. This one is still very much work in progress. I am not a huge fan of the results, but why not? This is more it's good enough. While we are waiting for the model to change, you might be wondering, so how do I get these good prompts? Like, how do I find out what a good prompt is? There is the prompting guide, which is very, very helpful. There is also something called lexica.art. And on here, you can see images that were AI generated. And when you click on them, you see the prompt. And when you hover over it, it even tells you like, oh, okay, so we have this here, then pink vibe, hyper-realistic, concept art, and so on. And you can even copy the prompt directly from here and put it in here and then generate images that are kind of like this. You could, for example, search for dwarf here at the top. And then, oh yeah, maybe this is good. So you just pick the prompt from this one, and then you can generate images that kind of look like this. And all images that were generated with the same prompt are in here. So this is a very convenient way of getting good prompts. Now I think our AI model has already generated some images. I should also remove the black beard and brown beard because they are definitely no longer relevant here.
White beard.
So there you go. So these are battle maps that were just AI generated just now. Oh.
Neat.
So yes,
cool.
it can do it. I still feel like this needs more training. So this training is not quite done yet. I'm currently, as I said, still waiting until training is here in ArtRoom, and then I'll get going and make my own models or some more models. There's also something called embeddings, which is currently not supported, which is just a tweak file. So you take your model, and then you take images, and you generate, or you tell the model to generate these images that you give as the example, and it tries and tries and tries and tries and tries, and eventually it says, oh, I think I figured it out, and gives you a file. And then you say, generate me something in the style of that file, and it will generate images that kind of look like that. As I said, it's not quite supported yet, and you can also not train it yourself. So, An alternative that is also in here is the magic prompt stable diffusion. What you can do there is you can give it an initial text, for example, dwarf warrior, and it will then give you different terms that might be working. So why not? Let's try this one here. So I've pressed submit and let it generate because it takes a couple of minutes. I did that in advance. Let's take this one, and I should probably also go back to my Steve 14, and we'll run what it told me to do, and we'll see whether we get a good result or not. You might also see that a lot of the terms that you see here, like highly detailed, ArtStation, and so on, these are terms that I already had in there. So more often than not, these terms, they're just very common by now. Like everybody uses more or less the same terms. Yes, change the model. Oh yeah, and then we need to show high quality images. Good point. While we're waiting for this to load, so soon there will be something called outpainting. I mentioned this earlier, where you can basically expand the field. So this one was basically taken as the input, this 512 image, and it was told expand to 1024 by 1024. Now you can totally see where the original image stopped and where the new image starts. So that kind of sucks a little bit. But this is still a very powerful tool that I imagine will have a lot of uses in the near future. Yeah. I mean, is it perfect? No, but it is pretty good. Like this gives you good images. Again, that stupid problem where the head is cut off. This happens so often. It's so annoying. Drives me nuts every time. That's why I like to paint, and then I just put the head there. And then it will respect that I need a head. Okay, so we have generated a lot of images. Now you want to make your own, I don't know, you might want to use it for a PDF. So you want to implement it in a PDF, and 512 by 512 is not high res enough for you. Now let's use this image here. So we want to upscale this image. Now we go to Upscale, which is this button here. We'll need to choose an image to upscale. So let's go to the desktop, and it's called, yes, I think it's this one. maybe I picked the wrong one. I should have looked what the network I can. 14. Yeah, so we'll change this to 14. We then need to choose an upscaler. I generally use the real SGRAN. This one is good for faces. The GFPN is good for landscapes. But I would consider this more of a face than a landscape. And the multiplier is by how much you want to upscale it. I'm going to make it 4 times as large. And you press upscale, and it says index out of range. Why does it say index out of range? Did I do something wrong? I see why. No, I know why this is a problem. So you need, or you don't need to put it output folder. But since I have it on the desktop, I think it's not allowed to write on the desktop. Upscaling already running. Now this is interesting. I might have found a bug. So this is, as I said, work in progress. If something like this happens to you, what you can do is you can just restart the software and try again. That usually fixes the problem. One moment, I'm just posting this on the server, so I have that here. Okay.
What was the one for landscape?
The one for landscape is the GFPN, and the SRGAN is the one for faces. Okay, so I will quickly restart this. Not a problem. Takes a second, and then we'll try again. I hope it's not a permanent problem. As you can see, I've tried this before, it worked. Number 14, please. Output, I want. It even made the folder. So why didn't it use it? Interesting. Well, I'll pick this one. And we're doing real SQL run. And hopefully it works. Yes, this time it worked. So upscale completed. Maybe I made it too large. Maybe because I made it 4 times. It was too much. So now, just for comparison's sake. Nope, not that one. So I've just upscaled it from here to here. And I would say this is without much visible loss of resolution. So if we zoom in here, this was already bad beforehand. So yeah, it does a pretty good job. And I mean, if you really are daring, you can even do something like this. So let's go to the desktop and we'll pick Larune's face and we'll see whether we can upscale his face. Because it doesn't need to be an AI generated image. It can also be an image that you have lying around. Now, obviously it does better with AI generated images, but I mean, this is not bad. If we are zooming in, so we have the same level, that's a bit too much, like this. Yeah. No, it's one more. Not quite. I'll leave it here. If you compare these two, the right one looks much better than just doing like a regular old resize. So upscaling, if you have any old images that you want larger, you could use the upscaling in ArtRoom as well. Cool. I think this is pretty much everything I definitely wanted to show. As I said, it kind of sucks. Like I've been waiting for outpainting and the new painting tools in the software for so long, but I really wanted to do this class. So that's why I'm doing it now, and then I'll just do another class once the in-painting and out-painting features are properly in there, which will hopefully happen soon. I'll do a follow-up class to this. But yeah.
Very insightful, brother. Great job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And as I said, this is gold. Like this is pure gold. It will make your life so much easier. Absolutely use these resources. 100% so useful. Yeah. And yeah, and here it actually even says use negative prompts for added horns, weapons, and spears. So you might actually need to use negative prompts for this. On the illithid, it also says you might need to put in purple and negative. Otherwise, you're just getting purple ones. So there is also some information here at the end that might be interesting for you. Yeah. The AI. Yeah, so terms that I find really interesting to add is stuff like horror or blood or wet, oil, slick. You know, these terms that are a little bit further out there, but then the end results can be very, very interesting. Just so I have the last image or the last link here also explained. So the AI can upgrade your art is an explanation on how to take these images that you generated to then be more. So if you actually want to do this commercially at some point, this is the video to look at. So he talks about how he then cuts out parts of the image and puts them together, and then puts the new put together image back in here and just puts the strength down, you know, the image variation way down, and that cut deals with those, you know, imperfections where the different parts have been put together. So that is a very
But similar to what you did with that pirate thing, you could just go into Photoshop and create a hybrid whatever and stick that in as your starter point, right?
And also, you could do, so let's say you want a dwarf warrior standing on a hill and the sky is purple in the background. What I would do is I would generate a hill with a purple sky, and I would generate a dwarf warrior, put them together, and then put that in as my source image. So you can AI generate two images and then put them together.
Right.
Wow.
One of the links here as well, there in tabletop resources, the guy who made this here also has a request channel. So if it's like, oh man, I have the super rare race, nobody has done anything, can you make something? You can write there. He's very open for that. And then the other thing, there is a guy currently trying to make tokens. That is his work. It is a little bit of a exploration exercise and exploration, but slowly he's getting there. So maybe once that pipeline is done, that's something to take a look at if you want to make AI-generated 3D tokens. Yeah. No. I would actually say stuff like Midjourney, the web stuff, or well, DALL-E 2, you have barely any input, but Midjourney you actually have quite a lot of input. So almost everything I've shown here should also be available in Midjourney apart from the models. So you're not going to get the models. But the Midjourney model is already one of the best ones. So if it's just you want a general model, you just want one model, and you don't want to bother swapping the models back and forth, the Midjourney one is probably the one I would go for, because it's just so universal.
Is it Midjourney cost?
Midjourney costs. The Midjourney model does not cost, because that was a privately made model. Like somebody took images, put them together, trained it. That's how they got the Midjourney model. So it's separate from Midjourney entirely. It has nothing to do. It's just called Midjourney style because it's the same style as what you would get if you generate something on Midjourney. And if you have to, yeah.
And ArtRoom is free to download, right?
ArtRoom is free to download, yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I should probably also have shown the. So this is something that I've generated as well. Oh, is the nudity? Let's quickly scroll through. There might be a little bit of, but I'll be careful. I'll just skip ahead fast if there's nudity. But I made like these landscape shots.
Wow.
This is a setting 50 fathoms, which is basically pirates. So it's of course very cool if you can just generate like ships and ships. Yeah. And then I needed a hospital in a church, and for whatever reason, it really wanted to emphasize the symbol there. Holy shit, it's like screaming at me. Yeah, even here, like look at this.
Switzerland. Switzerland.
Yeah, right.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
We're neutral. Wow. All them pictures are awesome, Flo.
So the pictures that I've just generated, you might see that the background looks really cool. So this is JWST, which is the James Webb Space Telescope. So somebody took all the images that the James Webb Space Telescope took and used them as their image. And basically, this is what you're getting. I don't know why these are all black dwarfs now. I don't mind, but it's kind of funny. And yeah, it gives you these very cool backgrounds. And I mean, if we are removing that, all of this, let's go to, I mean, I don't want this either. Let's do all of this. You'll just get some really cool nebulas. Yeah, the weapons are always fucked up. Weapons it just cannot do.
Like,
There's your desktop background.
Flo, thank you so much, man. It was really cool. Very, very ausgezeichnet.
Yeah. Yeah, I just gave up bothering trying. I mean, this is pretty good. Like this is okay hands. But yeah, it's usually just best to generate a lot of images and then put together the best parts. Or just accept that the hands don't look perfect. I mean, there was this meme, I will not find it anymore, from what is it called? iRobot, where I don't know what the main character is called, asked the AI, yeah, but can you do this? And then the robot asked back, can you? And it was basically, but can you draw hands? And then the question back is, well, can you draw hands? The answer is no, I cannot draw hands either. So fair point, AI, you get this point.
Skynet.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of time left, so if there's anything you want me to generate or try or show, I mean, now it's just like free time. I'm actually going to stop the recording here, so thanks everyone for watching, and bye-bye.